So before I recorded this review, I read a couple of online reviews to see kind of what the policy is with spoilers in regards to Star Trek Into Darkness. Mark my words, do not read reviews for this movie. Do not watch reviews that potentially have spoilers in them. Approach this like you would approach Iron Man 3. If it was important for you to not know the thing about the you know who and you know what and that whole deal, which I've talked about already, then yes, approach Star Trek Into Darkness like that, because being pleasantly surprised helped me walk away with a much better opinion of this movie than I probably should have. So once upon a time, you watched Star Trek and you kind of needed a certain level of suspension of disbelief in order to believe that, tachyon beams and thingamabobs and whatchamacallits can actually save the universe. For Star Trek Into Darkness, and to a lesser extent for the first Star Trek movie reboot from 2009, you need suspension of disbelief in order to believe that these people could actually save the universe. The first half of this movie, I kept going, no, Kirk, don't do that. That's stupid. He makes horrible decisions that lead to disastrous consequences. To give you an example, something happens in the beginning of this movie that kills about, 10 or 12 people. And that sets the course for what's going to happen. But during Kirk's mission, we lose a third of the Enterprise crew under his command. And it's not because he's young, it's not because he's arrogant, it's not because he's brash, it's not because he's a flawed human being, or it's not because he's at the beginning of his career. It's because he's a fucking idiot that should not be in charge of an ice cream truck, let alone a starship. Chris Pine is actually giving a very good performance. I like him as James Kirk. I just don't like him as Captain James Kirk. Of course, we're meant to empathize with Kirk, and in some ways, Kirk is like all of us. When our printer breaks down, do we take it apart and look at each piece and figure out what's wrong? No, we smack the shit out of it and hope that it works. That's kind of how Kirk approaches his command and the Starship Enterprise. Whenever Kirk steps aside and lets other characters do their work without interfering with his poor leadership, the movie actually works. That being said, there really isn't a lot of teamwork going on, since the movie focuses on the relationship between Spock, Harrison, and Kirk. Everything else is the mandatory, well, we have to give Uhura something to do, we have to give Sulu something to do, we have to give Scotty something to do, we have to give Bones something to do, and that's kind of a problem that they have with the first Star Trek, and I don't really feel that they improved on it. However, the menage a trois that I mentioned actually works very well, and Benedict Cumberbatch just chewed every single scene that he was in, and his character is intriguing, it's mysterious, he's vicious, but he's also sympathetic. He brought Christian Bale levels of intensity to this, but he still has a couple of evil moments that kind of get him to flirt with campiness. He looks at Campy and goes, hey, how you doing? But he never goes over and fucks it. In the middle, I think I just got used to the idea that Kirk is just a poor leader. But the movie also kind of flips on you and makes you go, so that's what you want to do. And because of that flip, you kind of wake up out of the numbness of watching another summer blockbuster with awesome special effects and great 3D, and you're kind of engaged, pun intended, until the end. At the same time, the movie kind of transforms into an homage. And you could make the argument that it does so to the extent of actually becoming gimmicky at some point. But I really don't have a problem with that gimmick because I'm a Trekkie and I like to feel acknowledged. And after blowing up fucking Vulcan, I think I deserve it. I still think that this is kind of an erratic universe where things happen without the proper consequences and the resolutions are kind of weak and hypocritical since they don't abide the rules that are in this universe. Also, what the fuck is up with Naevia for half a second in the movie? You see that scene in the trailer and that's all that you get of her. This is for Spartacus fans. If you watch Spartacus on Starz and you wanted to see Naevia in Star Trek Into Darkness, well, you're just basically got trolled because she's in it for only half a second. So when I reviewed the first Star Trek reboot movie in 2009, I called it fun but dumb. They actually managed to go dumber. And it's still fun, and if you're not completely annoyed with it by the middle, then you'll appreciate the heart that they threw in.